Back here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand, in studio one last time here in season 3. I'm Bryan. Joining me, as always, way across our electric table with 3 fancy microphones on, Chef Tony Biggs. How you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you guys? You guys good?
Fantastic.
Summer's upon us.
Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
You know, it's a Tuesday, and we just had a 3-day weekend, right? Because of Memorial Day weekend, which,
hats off to the veterans and their history, and hats off to them.
Amen.
Yep.
You said it well, right? That's why we get to have the freedom to talk about meat science and things like that, right? Because of those sacrifices made and beyond. So in between us, of course, as always, meat scientist Diana Clark. How are you?
I am great. Fantastic, actually.
Nice. You know, we are gathering today because this is the finale of season 3, and we are about ready to go on a hiatus for our summer break. It's actually going to be an extended hiatus. So normally we would come back at the end of September, early October. We do have some staffing. We're upgrading our, I shouldn't say upgrading, we're adding to our staff on the social media side because Paige, the social media gal, is really holding down the fort for everybody up there. So that's why she's not with us here. But you are going to see some content flowing out across our channels. So make sure you follow the Meat Speak. What is it? It's meat_speak, I think, on Instagram. Follow our channel for the updates as we go. But for right now, this is the end of season 3. And one thing that we like to do at the end of each season is to go back and look at everything that we've been able to talk about and what we've been able to do. I will have you guys both know that this is the first full season that we've been able to pull off where we weren't dealing with a global pandemic, right? I remember at the end of season 1 sitting on a picnic table with Jeremy Omansky outside of Larder because outside was the only place you could really be without masks to talk. Right. I remember the beginning of season 2 doing a podcast interview with Arnis Robbins from Evie Mays in Lubbock via Zoom from my basement. Right. So this is the first season that we have not had to deal with those kinds of issues. So it's either been in studio or we're out traveling, and man, it feels so good to
everything's turned on
it's
now.
Been so good. You know, season 3, before we really tear into the meat of it, if you go back and you listen, you'll notice Diana Clark is not around for the first 3 or 4 episodes, I believe, because
Where were you?
I had a little girl.
That's right.
She's almost a year old now.
Oh my gosh.
Time is flying by.
And everybody's good. We're sleeping 10 hours a night.
We're getting sleep. She's sleeping. She's doing good. She's loving life. Not a huge fan of the slip and slide. We found that out this weekend.
Face painting party coming up at my house.
You will? Oh, okay. Let's do it.
Wow.
But
I dealt with that yesterday. The face painting party with Amelia. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
It was either that or have a major meltdown.
That's it, exactly. That's where it's
gosh,
at.
I caved in. Okay, $20 or whatever you want.
Let's do it.
you should have gone with the slip and slide, Chef Tony.
Would have break my leg there, you know.
Oh. And and what a season it's been, right? So Diana eventually rejoined us, but, you know, what a season it's been, right? We got to talk about lots of different meat sciencey things. We got to talk about talk with some of our best friends in the industry, guys like Mark John Sarazin from DeBraga, Lamar Moore, Tom and Lisa Perini from the Perini Ranch, Jess Pryles.
Yes.
And we got to pay tribute to the late, great Mike Mills, the legend in barbecue circles. But I do want to drive you back before we tear into it. Our very first episode when we were sans meat scientist, right? Which I believe sans in French means without. I had 8 years of French class and
Oui.
Je parle un petit peu.
Chateauneuf de Pop.
So we were without meat scientists, so we actually leaned on our old near and dear friend, Dr. Phil Bass, right, to kick season 3 off talking about sheer force rankings. I will tell you, if you haven't heard that episode, it seems like you're probably in the minority because in the history of all of the podcasts that we've done, that is the highest rated, most downloaded. Unbelievable. Like, you know, I will never understand how things go viral, all right? We have a big YouTube channel that's got a huge following. Obviously, I don't have anything to do with it. But if you can crack the code for what makes things go viral, you could be a millionaire tomorrow. But we invite you to check that out because it is one of those topics And Diane, I'm glad you're here for this one now, where it seems like we were talking about one of those mystery things. People want to know, like, rank the cuts in order of tenderness, right? And that's not really a thing, right? You can't really, I mean, you can do that in general terms, but there's no, like, 1 through 87.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's always funny when people say, "Well, what number is this? How tender it is on that cut level?" So we always will say, like, tenderloin by far is the most tender. Then flat iron, yeah, that's definitely up there. But then all the other rankings, a lot of times academically is done, where they've taken shear force of them. They see those measurements. But most of those meats are cooked to 160 degrees. And so like that alone is going to turn people away of like, wait, what? It has to be tender if it's cooked to 160 degrees? It's like, well, some cuts need, I mean, look at the brisket.
Yeah.
You're not going to cook that thing to 125 and call it good. So it's kind of looking at which cuts need to be cooked to which level to get to the best tenderness of that cut.
Excellent.
Yeah, don't treat them all equally. Give them a little love.
That's right,
Yeah.
right? It's people sometimes ask, well, how do you like your steak cooked? And I have learned enough from now. I say, well, which steak are we talking about?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's the follow-up
Right.
question.
I learned from our buddy Nick Solaris, right? Some cuts are really good, completely rare, right? Just give them a quick flash.
Yep.
Right? Some cuts like that heat.
Yes.
A little skirt steak.
Chuck flap.
Yeah,
Yep.
chuck flap.
Yep.
Yep.
All day long.
Uh-huh.
All day long. So, guys, before we resume, go ahead. We're going to give you a little sampling of Episode 1, Sheer Force, with Dr. Phil Bass from the University of Idaho in Moscow. Do you know Moscow is in
Moscow,
Idaho?
yes.
Yeah, not Moscow.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I've been asked for years, decades, rank me the muscles. And that's because there's some old literature, some old handouts in the past that muscles have been ranked. And almost every single time I've said, I'm not going to rank them. I will categorize them, but I won't rank them. And that's because there's so many variables involved. Okay. There is a research paper out there that will say that the serratus ventralis muscle, or serratus ventralis muscle, is the third ranked most tender muscle in the carcass. That's where I would throw my BS flag in the air, because depending on where you cut that on the carcass, it could be very tender, nearly as tender as a New York strip steak, but everything has to line up to make it do that. Or it can be chewy as bubblegum if you're not cooking it right. The serratus ventralis is the Denver steak, and it's also the short rib. And you're not going to just cook a short rib to medium rare and hope that it's going to have the tenderness. And so that's where I'm very, very cautious with these listings. And so what I like folks to do is just better understand some of the categories. So if you're looking at specific cuts, yeah, I mean, the Denver steak is going to be a good one if it's cut further up onto the shoulder, out of, say, the chuck roll or the chuck flap. But even more so, I mean, the strip loin is just almost just as foolproof. And that's because it's the longissimus dorsi muscle. That's that main muscle in the back of the animal that's going to, again, these are quadrupeds. They don't stand up on their hind legs. And so it's still going to be a pretty tender piece of meat. Yeah. And you have the teres major, another very tender piece that was kind of identified about the same time as the flat iron, and oftentimes will be used as an alternative to tenderloin medallions.
Back here, still in studio, Bryan Schaff, meat scientist Diana Clark, chef Tony Biggs. Guys, season 3, what were some of your favorite moments? Where what sticks out for you?
Honestly, for me, I know it was recent, but that barbecue round table, just gathering around the table in the morning, the fact that we're all there together, exchanging stories, like that is just fun. Like that to me is what barbecue is all about. It's that family, and it just felt like, oh yeah, we can finally do this. So that was just something I'll never forget, being able to share those stories and get to know a little bit more about each one of them too. It's kind of amazing seeing the different backgrounds and what leads you into barbecue, and knowing that everyone's welcome regardless of where you came from, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, I was not a fan of the 6 a.m. start time for that.
See, that's my cup of tea right there. I was like, hey, I'm in it. I was ready to go.
Well,
yeah.
isn't that the time they get up? The barbecue guys get up
they
and
have to
they
get
start
ready.
the wood,
Exactly.
right?
So we're just making them feel
They get
more
the
at home.
smokers. Come on, Bryan, get with the program there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am sweating so much.
I mean, it is hot outside.
I don't know what my problem is.
It's already like 80 degrees.
It's
Yeah.
80 degrees already.
Sorry,
in the shade.
I'm completely digressing. I'm trying not to like bump the microphone while I'm looking for something to wipe sweat with. But that was a great episode because again we had 3 different pitmasters from 3 different areas of the country.
Yeah.
Of course, Dave Bonner in Chicago, Anthony DiBernardo from Charleston, South Carolina, and Arnis Robbins from Evie Mays in Lubbock, Texas. You know, one of the things about barbecue that I feel like people don't understand is like I feel like barbecue is like donuts, right? There's not bad barbecue. Like bad barbecue is still good barbecue.
I
There's
agree.
just different levels of wow. And I was super pleased to have those 3 on because their barbecue there's good barbecue, there's great barbecue, and then there's life-changing barbecue.
I
And-
completely agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things, it's like you're never going to, yeah, it's not bad. But once you've had that really great stuff,
yeah.
man, it is hard to be like, that was great barbecue. Like, it's like, yeah, I ate it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's still delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and do a little flashback. I feel like we should, like Wayne's World, and go right into the Barbecue Roundtable, which would have just gone live about a month ago here on the Meat Speak podcast.
Barbecue in general is the hardest, easiest job in the world.
Yeah.
And consistency is key. I mean, that's not everyone, but for the most part, you can do it once. You know, if all of the variables are right. But then, you know, for us in West Texas with wind and crazy weather and extremely low humidity levels, just so many variables that it's not about how do I cook this brisket. It's about how do I mitigate all of these other factors that are like coming in and trying to screw this up. But brisket specific, you can't fake it. Like it's there's a lot of meats that if they're not right, you can cover them up in sugar or sauces, whatever it is. You can't fake brisket. Like it's either cooked right or it's not, and if it is, it's great, and if it's not, it's awful.
Yeah, I think with like brisket, when I first started at Green Street 5 years ago, we would trim off a layer off the fat cap, put it in the smoker. And I think the brisket game has evolved so much where there's so many more people putting out great brisket, just the fact how they're trimming it. You know, you're rounding your edges, you're taking that piece off the point to make it aerodynamic, and you just got to put more care into it because, you know, that's the breadwinner right there. People are going to your place for brisket.
Back here on the Meat Speak podcast, Bryan Shelf, meat scientist, 9 o'clock. Chef Tony Big. Chef, season 3 for you, man. You are back running like crazy, right? And one of the things that I always notice is when we're looking at like calendars to sit down to figure out when we can get everybody in the studio, you're all over the place, man. One week you're on a cruise ship, you know, some weeks you're cooking outside. You're back, man. Does it feel like you're sprinting again?
Well, you know, I just had a birthday, 65. So I'm not a relic yet, but, you know, yeah, I am running. I'm still running.
You are definitely running.
I'm running like with the millennials, and it's fantastic, right? And I'm running circles around them, okay? And so
You're flying on the Black Diamond, like
the,
we're back
the
in
Black
California.
Diamond. I didn't fall once,
See?
okay, in
He's
Tahoe.
got-
I did
yes.
not, but I had a major toothache that cost me a lot of money. But anyway, we're back.
It's been a big year.
It's been a big year. It's been an interesting year. Yeah.
Yeah, so Chef, talk to us about your favorite moments from this year. Of course, last week we were like digging holes and stuff.
I
Like
know.
That was weird.
I got it. But one of my
People were
favorite
asking questions.
classic rock albums was Time Machine by Deep Purple. Do you remember this?
Oh,
Do you remember this? And so
I don't remember
that's
it.
not a relic, but my favorite one was the Meathead Time Machine, okay? Going back to the relics, going back to all those old cuts like the pinbone steak,
Yeah,
right?
that was
Do you
cool.
remember this?
Yes, that was fun.
I had never seen this until you showed me this, and it was just amazing, right? And we've cooked this a couple of times, and it's amazing. And of course, the steak au poivre is one of my favorite, and you know those type of things. The what else? Steak au poivre, the pinbone steak. The steamship round,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
never gets really seen anymore. We've done this outside a couple of months ago with Joe Barza. Do you remember this from the Middle East?
Yeah.
Hung that outside in 20-degree weather. It was just epic photos. It tasted great. We studded it with garlic and rosemary. It was just amazing. So I think the Meathead Time Machine was kind of my favorite of all time.
The-
Yeah.
The classics will always come through.
Classics. Yeah, classics.
You know, don't take our word for it. Meat centric, right? These are very specific cuts. Diana, if you wouldn't mind, the first one we're going to jump into, the 7-bone chuck steak. There's
Yes.
a lot going on there.
Yeah, so and it's basically all how they used to break down a side of beef. So before they used to take off that brisket and they would cut straight down to the table. And when you do that, you're actually cutting into the clod. So that's why we kind of avoid doing that. But when you would do that before, you would create this square cut chuck. And within that square cut chuck, then you could go on it's the rib end and cut towards the neck or towards where the head of the animal would be. And that's where your 7-bone steaks would come from. You cut them back that way. And you could come on the other end where you cut that brisket off, and that's where your arm roast would come from. I always say, if you guys look at old pictures, the arm roast almost looks like a dinosaur head. I swear if you go look at it, you'll totally see it. And it's very easy. So we had to identify these for 4-H meat judging. So teaching kids, you got to look for these specific parts. So that's the dinosaur head. The 7-bone, the blade bone is in there, and it looks like the number 7.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from, 7-bone steak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, back here on the Meat Speak podcast, coming to you from in studio in the this is the basement of the world headquarters of Premium Beef, the happiest place on the planet.
There's no basement in the Alamo.
Love that movie. So, I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure so much. Right.
Sorry, that's
I
a
loved
great
it when I was
movie.
right. Oh,
If you haven't watched it, you need to watch
yeah.
it.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Classic. Speaking of
Yeah.
classics, right?
It's a total classic,
Yes.
right? That's, you know, one of my favorite ones is sometimes I feel like sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? And we had a podcast in November with our buddy Daniel Vaughn, the barbecue editor of Texas Monthly, right? And Daniel Vaughn is the one who comes out with the coveted top 50 barbecue list, right? And we had him lined up. We had him set for an interview, and it just happened to be a week after the most recent top 50 list came out, right? So this only comes out every 4 years, right?
Yes.
This is
a
like the
big deal.
presidential election, but with brisket, right? So, I mean, even better, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And so we were able to catch him and really kind of catch him in the throes of all the fallout that comes from these lists. Because, you know, a lot of times it's, you know, you get both sides. You get the sides that are celebrating, but then you also have the sides who are, you know, who
What happened?
Yeah, they want to know what went wrong and things like that. So, you know, it's the nature of the beast when you're in a position of picking winners and losers, or winners and non-winners. As I tell my soccer girls, there's no losers, only non-winners. You know,
It's a good way to look at it.
yeah, but it was great to have that discussion to understand the methodology behind what he went in. Of course, Goldie's in Fort Worth was number 1 this year, upsetting sort of the bastions. Franklin Barbecue, Snow's is there. Of course, our pals at Evie May were I think number 7. You know, of course, and then all the classics were in there as well with Blacks and Terry Blacks and Heim Barbecue and Louis Miller Barbecue in Taylor, Texas with Wayne Miller, all on that list. But what a cool time to not just to chat with Daniel Vaughn, who's a fantastic wealth of knowledge in terms of the history of barbecue, but more so to catch him just after this list had come out was
Yeah,
real
that
special.
was cool.
By the way, Daniel Vaughn, for those of you who don't know, the guy who writes the Bible of Texas barbecue, he's from Ohio.
That's right.
Yeah, we claim
Wayne
him.
County
He's
native.
from Worcester, Ohio. Literally
right.
went to high school like a mile from where we're standing
This
right
is
now.
why
so.
everyone needs to come visit. Just
That's
saying.
right. That's right. That's it. Here's a clip from that episode with Daniel Vaughn. It is, I believe it's entitled The Science of Barbecue.
Yeah, well, the lead up to it, of course, it's a lot of work on our part to put it together, to do all the writing and editing. It's also it still surprises me sometimes how quickly we turn it around from finished product online, just in PDF format, to actually getting a printed magazine. And that was essentially like 3 weeks this time around. Um, so in that 3 week segment, it's just me, I don't know, just sort of dreading conversations with pitmasters who I know are going to be really disappointed. I've met a lot of the people who I'm writing about or not included in the list, and people who are not included in the list. And, I know a lot of them are going to be disappointed, and some of them are going to be incredibly happy, obviously. So yeah, it's just me sort of dreading all of that. And, a lot of the pitmasters say the same thing, is that they are just, certainly eagerly anticipating the list, whether they're on it or not. And yeah, so we also this time around made it even more difficult on ourselves by having 3 different Texas Monthly Barbecue events with, it was basically a way to celebrate the 2017 Top 50 list, which is our last one, to celebrate it one last time before the new one came out. So we invited a lot of those barbecue joints together for 3 different events. We had one in Brownsville and Lubbock and in Tyler, Texas, 3 smaller cities in Texas. And, I knew that some of those places were going to make it on the list again, and that some of them weren't going to. And so just, trying to act natural whenever the questions come up. But, by and large, I mean, even when after the list comes out, I mean, certainly there's barbecue fans that love this place or aren't so sure about that place and have their arguments. And there are some barbecue joints who are really upset and unhappy that they're not on the list, or maybe not as high as they want to be on the list, which is kind of a new thing this year. But by and large, I mean, for the most part, barbecue people, they're classy people, right? They have a lot of class. They handle with grace. There's a few outliers, but for the most part, it's really not that dramatic.
Of course, from a meat science standpoint, we continued our exploration through the beef carcass, touching on things like the short plate, beef salumi, and Cuban cuisine with our friends from Olé Hospitality Group in Louisville. We also got to talk to some of the leading women in the meat industry, including Carla DiLorenzo from Los Tanitos in Miami, and our favorite Australian, Jess Pryles, who now calls Texas home.
One of the things, I guess, to segue into this that's really important is right now what I do a lot of my social media is a lot of meat myth busting. And if you don't know me, it nearly looks like I'm a paid shill for the industry because I'm so fervent about it, and I'm so passionate about it. But what it is, I mean, it's exactly what you said, Bryan, like it's that journey. So it's things like, now that I know what I'm looking at when I read a label, I get frustrated when people take advantage of other people's, lack of understanding. So one of the things, for example, that drives me crazy is people using the terms better, healthier, just these generic, it's better for you. Our cows are happier. Things like that just prey on people's misunderstanding of what actually constitutes great quality beef, and also the lack of understanding about sustainability and animal welfare and all of that kind of thing. And I challenged them. I mean, I had a whole very heated argument with someone the other day who was talking about regenerative farming, and I asked her 2 or more questions. And that's where it stopped because she just knew the buzzwords. She didn't actually know why organic was important to her because she didn't understand it. She didn't understand, what industry standards were. Anyway, so all of that is what I really enjoy doing now, because it's like once you're empowered with information, it's the most wonderful feeling that you get to make informed choices as a consumer. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
All right, back here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand. Bryan Schaff, Chef Tony Biggs, meat scientist Diana Clark, catching her mid-swig of her giant cup of... What's in there, anyway?
I can't tell you.
It's broth, isn't it?
Is it beef broth? Really? Oh my gosh.
Anyways, this is the culminating episode of Season 3. Guys, we are going to take a break, right? We get a little summer hiatus, right? Which sounds like we're going to, going to go poolside and just hang out with some cocktails and stuff like that. Believe it or not, actually, I checked my schedule before I came down this morning and was like, oh, we're taking a break so we can sprint for 3 or 4 months. I would say that the travel dates are stacking up. Chef Tony, you and I just got back from the NRA in Chicago.
We did.
Other NRA.
That's right. Yeah.
The other NRA.
That's right.
Yes,
We're not talking the National Rifle Association.
We're not talking the National Renderers Association.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the National Restaurant Association. Yeah.
That was fun.
It was a good time.
We had some good restaurants. One of our partners.
Yeah. We went to Suco with our buddy Carlos Gaitan.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it was
That
really
was
great.
good.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Man, I kind of want to go there.
Outstanding. Yeah. We had some really good Chinese food, and we had an icy from 7-Eleven. It was
That
was
is,
okay.
I'm not even joking. I always need to get one. I call it a Slurpee, but always
Slurpee,
need to get a
yeah.
Slurpee when so my daughter was born on the 9th, slightly hoping she was going to be born on the 11th because she would have been a 7-Eleven baby. Just saying.
That was National Slurpee Day, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think it was.
She could have gotten free Slurpees like that. Come on.
Did you argue your case? You're like, can we just hold this off?
Just we hold for a second. She was not holding it.
She was not having
it. She was ready to go.
So close. So close. I'll tell you, we got to go, and Chef, I thought we were going to the same Chinese place that you mentioned, but this was a different spot. Very close, apparently, with our buddy Jeremy Ford, right?
Oh, nice.
We went to this little dumpling shop in Chinatown, and it was unbelievable. It was so
Really?
so good.
Oh, yeah. That Chinese
Chicago
food.
is just such a great
Amazing.
place.
Amazing.
The food is great. It
Yeah.
really is.
We went to this place called MCCB, and it reminded me of what was the bar in New York City where all the rock stars were all the punk rock stars were discovered. It was CBGB.
Yes.
Okay, so it reminded me of that place, right? Very funky, not your traditional old Chinese food. 40 seats, amazing fried eggplant. It was nice, unbelievable. Dan noodles with ground beef. Okay,
Oh.
yeah. Okay, instead of ground pork, amazing, hot, spicy. Here I am plugging Chinese restaurants,
Hey.
right? But it was amazing, right? We
Yeah.
had a great time.
Well, to your point, listen, like we're a meat-centric podcast, but like,
Hey, yeah.
I mean, there's a reason I'm not skinny,
I
right?
know.
If you need a dinner recommendation,
Yeah, I'm with you, baby.
let me know. One of the things about Chicago, and I always get this. I've never had traditional Chicago deep dish pizza in Chicago. I've never had
Like still to this day.
yeah, I've never had
serious?
Portillo's because every time I'm in Chicago, we have
I
so many
see.
restaurant friends that I go to their places
That's
instead
true.
of hitting these like Chicago.
We had a Giordano's right across the street from the hotel.
Yeah.
You could buy frozen pies to go.
I've had Giordano in Columbus, Ohio.
in Columbus, yeah, that's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah, but we've always got so many friends around, and it's like,
Have you at least had like the Chicago hot dog in Chicago? Not necessarily Portillo's.
I had the one at Fatso's Last Stand, which is
Yeah, see,
fantastic.
it's
Yeah,
a,
the burger there is also really good.
Wow.
It's also certified Angus beef.
I'm
I'm
just
saying.
saying. So it's gonna be good.
That said, it is time to put a bow on Season 3. If this is your first time tuning into the Meat Speak podcast powered by the certified Angus beef brand, know that you can find us across all of your major podcasting platforms: Google Play, Apple, Spotify. Please go leave a star ranking, leave a review on Apple. It's the little purple icon on your phone. Also, Spotify has reviews as well, I've been told. I don't have Spotify. I'm sorry, Spotify.
I have Spotify.
I'm old, right? I have
like
Apple
Spotify.
Music.
I like Spotify.
Yeah, so I don't have it. So that said, you can also do that or go to certifiedangusbeef.com/podcast. Also, give us a follow on the Instagram. It's meat_speak, where we'll be posting all of our updates. We'll be, again, we're going on hiatus, but you're still going to see stuff coming out, right? A little bit sprinkled throughout the summer, certainly in the fall once things pick back up. And we're done sprinting all summer long. So, Chef Tony, Meat Scientist Dan Clark, you guys got big plans this summer?
Just living life.
Barbecue and swim.
Barbecue and swim. That's nice.
That's it.
I'm heading to the James Beard Awards in a couple weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now
Good time.
that's fancy.
Let me tell you, if you think I'm sweating now, wait till you see me in a
Yeah,
tuxedo.
yeah.
It's going to be amazing. Right? And the Windy City Smokeout. I go to Chicago a lot. Headliner this year, Willie Nelson.
No way.
Willie Nelson, yeah.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
yeah, the man, Willie Nelson.
Wow.
Right. That said, thanks for listening to the Meat Speak podcast. On behalf of the certified Angus beef brand, Meat Scientist Dan Clark, Chef Tony Biggs, everybody who's been our guest this season as we've gone. Enjoy your break. Enjoy having some time away from us, because by now, I get sick of myself. I can't imagine what it's like to voluntarily choose to listen to me. I'm Bryan Shaw. Thanks for listening.